And welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Ali and I predominantly film my travels, which there hasn't been much of in the past 2 years, but I hope to start traveling again soon, mainly in April. I should be going to Disney World. Fingers crossed all goes as planned, but I'm still iffy about it. You never know in this climate if it's gonna change. I will be filming my upcoming Disney World trip if you're interested in those sort of vlogs. Plus I like putting together tips videos, just sharing what I know with everyone else, and maybe it will help you. So this video, as you can see from the title, is my budget / planning video, just about how I planned my upcoming trip in April to Walt Disney World. I want you to keep in mind I am Australian, so everything that I'm going to be saying to you will be in Australian dollars, converted at the time of whatever the conversion rate is, or at an estimate conversion rate, so it can change, guys. It's pretty much what I'm telling you. Do not take these figures as fact, but I just thought I'd share with you everything that I've had to consider for this upcoming trip in April. And you know what, I have probably forgotten something, so if I have, yeah, feel free to let me know below. Definitely do your own research and make sure you've got everything covered. This is just everything I believe that I needed for my upcoming stay. Another thing to keep in mind, I am literally talking figures for one person, not a family, not multiple people, one person, and I'm gonna go out here and it is expensive. Don't think that a Disney holiday isn't. I'm a bit lucky that I've had the past 2 years of savings to be able to put towards this holiday. It's not cheap, so you can obviously do it cheap. I don't know if this trip is necessarily me doing it on the cheap, because flights right now are insane and there's just not many great deals. Disney World prices are going up. It's a crazy time, but I love the place and I'm going back, so there you go. So let's get into it. You're considering going to Disney World. First of all, congratulations. How exciting. I find planning quite fun. It's one of my favorite things to do. Any sort of holiday, not just Disney World, but I enjoy planning holidays. I'm probably in the wrong industry. I should probably really look into joining the travel industry or something, because I really enjoy planning people's holidays. It doesn't have to be my own for me to enjoy it. So the first thing you need to consider is obviously when you're gonna go. I knew I was going in April. I am traveling with 2 teachers, so they need to go on school holidays, and that was the best time for them. I also had DVC points that were going to expire on the 1st of June, so I had to use it by then. And because I'm traveling with teachers, April was our best bet, so going for 2 weeks in April. Now, once you've obviously figured out when you're going to go, you need to think about accommodation, what you're going to book, where you're going to stay. For me, I own DVC, which is Disney Vacation Club. I'll leave a video linked down below that is me explaining Disney Vacation Club. I'm not going to say it explains everything about Disney Vacation Club, because it definitely doesn't, but it explains the main part. So I'll leave that down below if you're interested. But for me, I already have accommodation sorted. But actually for this upcoming April trip, we still had to stay at some other hotels that weren't DVC that we had to pay for. And my tips to Australians doing that, I don't know, and if there are some, I apologize, but I don't know any really good Australian travel agents that know Disney World incredibly well. So my tip for you will be, if it's your first time, you can book it yourself. There's no trouble with booking it yourself. It's actually really straightforward. However, I would probably go through a travel agent. Either an American, they're mainly American travel agent who specialize in Disney. They're completely free to use. That's who I actually used for some of my accommodation in April. The company I used is Dreams Unlimited Travel, and they just helped me book in my other resorts. They're very knowledgeable, they know everything, and the one great thing about them is if a deal comes out when you're staying at Disney World, they will just find it and apply it for you. You don't have to ask them. If you book direct yourself, that would be on you to go and, when that deal comes out, apply it to your booking, call Disney and get it all sorted. they do it all for you. So that is my biggest like reason why I'll keep using a travel agent, because I don't want to have to deal with that, and that leaves it all on them to do. Another thing I have never done, but a lot of people have got good deals, is booking through a UK Disney travel agent. You can't book through UK Disney. It's very confusing. You have to book through a travel agent. One that I know is Attraction Tickets. I know a fair few Aussies who have booked full holiday packages through them, and the only thing you need to consider is the conversion rate, because obviously it's all going to be in pound. You need to convert it to Australian dollars to make sure it's still actually a pretty good deal. Most of the time from when I've looked, it is a pretty good deal. If I was staying for a bulk like 2 weeks, I would consider using them. But like I said, I had DVC to use this time and only had a few other nights to fill in with just other Disney hotels, so that's why I did it that way. That's how I book my Disney trips. Like before I bought into DVC, I did rent DVC points, which I highly recommend doing as well. I once again have a whole video about it. I'll leave it linked below, but it allows you to stay at deluxe resorts for around the price of a moderate, sometimes even a value, because they are very expensive now. So you can probably almost stay at some deluxe resorts for the price of a value by renting someone's DVC points, and that'd be another way that I'd recommend for you to get like accommodation. So for me in this upcoming trip, let me just get my spreadsheet. I literally have it on my Mac. Ignore this is like really gross, it's just my cover. For this upcoming trip, I am predominantly using my DVC points. For just over a week and a bit, we're using those points, so not for the entire trip. So I still did have to book some accommodation, which we chose to stay at Disney World resorts. I could have rented a villa, I could have stayed at Universal, I could have stayed at other offsite hotels. I like staying on property at Disney World resorts, so that is what I chose. I booked that through Dreams Unlimited Travel. So for how many nights are we doing? I think we're doing 6 nights at this resort. It was, oh, I've got it all in here, $1,809 US in total, which came to $2,237.27, like Australian dollars, when I paid. There's 3 of us in the room, so for me, I'm paying $745 for 6 nights, which is a bit, it's a value resort. It's pricey. That's not cheap, definitely not cheap, but that's Disney. So we've got that accommodation, we have our DVC stay, and we actually had to book because our flights ended up coming in a day earlier than we expected. They got cancelled and changed, and instead of arriving on Friday now, we're arriving on Thursday. So we had to book another night in, so we've got one other night stay at another value resort, which came to 273 Australian dollars for the one night, and it was $92. Dividing it by 3 people because I'm sharing with 2 other people, so $90 for myself, and that's for just for one night. So that's on my accommodation, because I didn't, like I said, I have my DVC, so for most of it, I think how many nights, 9 nights, I'm using my DVC points, so I didn't have to consider booking a resort. I had to obviously book it, but I didn't have to exchange money values for the rest of that. So that's why mine is going to be a little off from everyone else's, so you're going to have to budget a fair bit more for accommodation. Moving on, now that we know where we're going, we've booked our accommodation. This is just the way I do things, by the way. I generally look for flights, and I know some people might think, wouldn't you book flights first? No, because I'm staying on Disney property. That's why I stayed at Disney World Resort. They're very, very flexible. If you have to change, move it around, cancel it completely, it's completely fine. Like, it's so easy to get your money back. It's no hassle. That's why I will often book in, like I had this accommodation booked in well over a year ago, just in case we could go. 1, I locked it in at a lower rate, and 2, it's just there and I knew I could cancel it at any time, so it didn't really matter. Like, I had to put a deposit down, but that was it. So it's just the way I go. I book all my accommodation first, and then I'll start looking for flights. Once I have my flights locked in, that is final. I know I'm pretty much going, because they're a lot harder to cancel. Actually, during COVID times, even though I haven't been flying, a lot of airlines have been a lot better with the whole cancellation thing because of COVID, so that's way better, because like I said, it used to be if I booked my flights, that's it, I was going, because you know, you cancel those and you're gonna lose so much money and it's just a big hassle. So flights. Now this is the kicker. So I think in 2019 we got flights for $1,700 or $1,800 return from where I live in North Queensland all the way to Orlando. That's impossible now, especially for when we wanted to go in April. There were no deals. It was extremely expensive. Everything has gone up. I am rarely seeing those cheap flights anymore. There are some available, but it's definitely not the time when I wanted to go. So our flights, actually, we stalked Flight Centre's website and we decided to book through Flight Centre because one, I could book it myself, but two, I thought, okay, during the pandemic, Flight Centre's gonna know all the stuff that I'm gonna need to do to get into that country. They can keep on track of all the flight changes and I don't have to. And they also, if you pay an extra, I believe it's $60, I could be wrong with that price, you can get like the captain's package, but that includes flight drop protection, flight price drop protection, something like that. And what that means is once you book the flights through Flight Centre, if you're looking on Flight Centre and all of a sudden you find your flight $200 cheaper, you can tell Flight Centre and they will give you a credit for that difference. So you can get money back. Essentially, you can just use it for some other trip. It is only Flight Centre credit, but I'm probably going to be traveling again, so I could just use them again for something else. We thought that was a pretty good deal because when we booked these flights, we thought they might get cheaper, but we wanted to lock it in because we also didn't want the flights to fully book out with everybody being able to travel again, and then next minute we're paying even more. So we were scouring. We were even considering, at one point I was considering flying to Japan, having like a 24-hour layover and then going over to Orlando because that was like $2,100. We considered stopping in Hawaii for like a day because that was like, I think that was $2,100 and something. And then all of a sudden this deal popped up with American Airlines and it was $2,000 return, 2,000 something. I've got here 2,186, but that included the flight drop protection, so I know this is slightly off. And we decided to book it. Even though my American Airlines experience wasn't great, the flights that we actually booked that left from Australia were operated by Qantas. Now the same flights through Qantas were 2,600, but if we booked it through American Airlines and we're flying a Qantas plane, it was like, what, $500 cheaper. So that's what we did. So fingers crossed we stay on the Qantas plane because I didn't really enjoy American Airlines like international, but saving that much money, I would deal with it. So that was the cheapest I could ever find my flights for April. That was leaving from Sydney, not including my flight from Townsville to Sydney where I live in North Queensland. But I was very fortunate. I've had to cancel many flights in the past 2 years and I had a flight credit with a local airline that I could use to get down there. So I didn't have to consider that factor in, but going from a major city, which most people in Australia will be going from, a capital city, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, maybe Perth, yeah, it was 2,000 and something. I think it was like 2,090 or something like that for the flights return. That's with Qantas and American Airlines. Not cheap at all. I haven't found them any cheaper than that since for my dates. We actually had to fly out on the Thursday as well in order to get it this cheap, because if you flew out on the Friday it was an extra $200 like per person. And that's why we decided to stay one night at another value resort, because it was cheaper that way than each of us spending an extra $200 just to fly out on the Friday. So these are all things you need to consider. Now, you could get deals if you do all the flights individually. Not for the dates I'm going, but at other dates I have seen, like if you booked through Hawaiian Airlines to get to maybe Hawaii, or some other airline to get to Hawaii, then Hawaiian Airlines to go to Orlando, or maybe go through New Zealand. Like I found people get some good deals from Sydney to Orlando. The latest one I read was $1,600 return. Don't know what time of year it was for this year, but it was for sometime this year. It was my dates, I checked. So flights, you just have to really search and look through and see what's good. Use Skyscanner just to get a brief idea. I used, like I said, Flight Centre. I looked at airlines directly to see what the prices were on their own websites and just figuring out what routes we could take. It wasn't an easy time. And I think flights are definitely like that. Well, okay, if I had to pay for accommodation fully, that would be the worst cost, but for me it's the flights. Yeah, that is just an insane price. I've never paid over $2,000 to get to Orlando, and that was just crazy. So I'm hoping it goes down because I plan to go back again in December, and I'm hoping we can get it for under that price. That would be nice. It's so far looking like we may be able to, looking at a few things, so fingers crossed. That was the next thing I had to consider. Then of course, we ain't going overseas without travel insurance, and this is a big discussion in so many groups that I've seen. Who are you all booking for travel insurance? I looked through many different companies, reading through their COVID FAQs, trying to figure out who was the best. I knew it was going to be pricey because I needed them to cover all the COVID things that I wanted them to cover. I didn't want to risk getting stuck overseas and having to pay my own medical bills, or getting stuck quarantining and having to pay all of that out of pocket myself and have nobody help. So all of those sort of things I had to consider. The one that I personally found, there could be others, but the one that I personally found the best was Covermore. Now, because we booked our flights through Flight Centre, we just got Flight Centre's Covermore insurance. They got like a tiny little bit of a discount. I think when I looked on their website it was $280 something, and we paid $277 per person. That's for just over 2 weeks. But the good news is I have heard of a fair few Aussies, well, not good for them, like I feel bad for them. They tested positive to try and come back home to Australia, so they got stuck on quarantine. The two people that I know of both had Covermore insurance, and Covermore pretty much said, yeah, we're going to cover all your quarantine. You have to pay up front, obviously, and then when you get back into Australia, you put through a case and they'll reimburse you the money. So far I haven't heard anything back from those people, and they all said it was really straightforward and they were very good about the whole thing, so they seemed like the way to go. So that is who we booked insurance with, and please do not leave this country without travel insurance. I don't really know if you need domestic insurance because we have Medicare sort of everywhere in Australia, so you're always going to get help unless you really want to cover your flights. But most Australian airlines are pretty good with cancelling flights due to COVID and whatnot, same with hotels. But if you were traveling internationally, do not even consider going anywhere without travel insurance. I consider you an idiot if you do, because that is just stupid. So travel insurance is a must, especially in today's day and age, and you need it. So travel insurance, get everyone. It's a must, like trust me. Going off this, the next thing I thought about was food. So how much is it going to cost me for food for just over 2 weeks? I was really smart back in 2018 and I made a whole video, I'll also link it below, and it was a food diary. I'm going to make it again when I go in April because it was very helpful. And I documented every bit of food I ate. Why not? No, I mainly did it so I could understand how much money I spent on food. I even included items where if say my sister brought an ice cream and I had 2 scoops of her ice cream, I would include that in price because I still ate some of it. So when I look back at that, I think it was $900 US is what I spent on food. So therefore for this trip, I've estimated 1,400 Australian. I highly doubt I'm gonna touch all of that, mainly because I'm not eating as many restaurants and I just don't eat as much. Like I don't think I'm gonna touch it, but I'd rather go worst case scenario than not have enough. So I've budgeted in 1,400 Australian dollars. I think they usually say try and budget between 80 to 100 US dollars a day on food, because you gotta think about, you have a quick service, that's 20 US bucks straight up. If you have 2 of them a day, you're at 40. If you sit down at a restaurant, you're probably then like easy at 100. So yeah, 80 to 100 US dollars is I think what a lot of people do budget. And so yeah, I figured out from that trip, when I ate at a table service restaurant every day in that trip. I'm not doing that this time. We just guesstimated 1,400 Australian dollars going off what we had done previously. Next, we need to talk about park tickets. Now, normally, as I said at the beginning of this video, if you book through attraction tickets and book like a whole package, your tickets will be included in that. Same with Disney World, you can book like a whole package through them as well and your tickets will be included in that. So you didn't really have to consider tickets. However, if you're someone who might just book accommodation through direct, maybe through a travel agent, My advice to you, if you are Australian and you're staying for longer than 7 days, you plan to go to the parks for more than 7 days, do not buy a ticket direct through Disney World. It's generally going to be more expensive than this other option I'm about to tell you, which is, I did it in 2019, and that is the 14-day UK Disney World ticket that they sell to Australians. I know, believe it or not, they do. You can't buy it direct from the UK Disney World website though. You can only buy it from a UK Disney travel agent, such as attraction tickets. I know there are other ones. There's the ones that I have used, so that is why I mention them, and I know many other Australians have used them. And that is who I purchased my tickets for this trip. So I looked it up, and for me to get like a 10-day pass with Park Hopper through Disney World website, it was 1,100 Australian dollars. Yeah, just let that sink in for 10 days. Ridiculous. And instead, for a 14-day pass, which includes Park Hopper, which also includes water park access, which also includes Memory Maker, like when you add on all this stuff, it is ridiculous. We only paid 936 Australian dollars for that instead of 1,100 for only 10 days. This is 14 days for less. It was so confusing trying to tell my parents that they had to buy this pass, because they're like, we don't need to go to the parks that often. And I was like, no, you don't understand. It's cheaper. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't go to the parks all those 14 days. This works out cheaper. Definitely do the maths on how many days you're going, because sometimes you probably would find maybe the Disney World ticket will benefit you. But 100%, if you're going to be there for longer than 7 days and go to the parks every day, I believe this ticket will work out better. I don't know anyone else that can give us a good deal like that, as in there's no US travel agent that can give us these sort of tickets. It is literally only a UK deal, and they can sell to us. I have messaged them, I have spoken to them. Many other Australians have done it, and that is who I highly recommend to get your tickets through, because it is just such a good deal. The fact you get Memory Maker thrown in, you can park hop for free, like there's no extra to park hop, you can go to the water parks, the deal is just, it's ridiculous. UK people get like the best deals, and we have finally as Australians discovered how to also get them. Thank you UK travel agents for selling to us, because you sometimes can't get any of those deals, and the US don't even get that good of deals, so it's just crazy. So yeah, they were my park tickets. Now, my sister and I did want to get an annual pass because we're going back in December, but Disney, bless them, have stopped selling annual passes. So what we're thinking of doing is when we arrive, if annual passes don't go on sale before then, we will upgrade those tickets to an annual pass if they will sell them to us. We shall see, but at the moment we've just got the 14-day park tickets. Because I live in North Queensland, I cannot get to Sydney in time for my international flight, like in the same day. There's no early enough flight, like I'd have to leave at 3 or 4 a.m. and there's just no flights leaving at that time, you know? So we have to fly a day early, yay, which means another lot of accommodation. However, this time I really don't mind doing that, mainly because we need to get a COVID test before we go into the US. It is currently the 31st of January when I am filming this, and currently to get into the United States, you need to do I believe it can be PCR or rapid. I'm going to do a PCR test 24 hours prior to departure in order to be able to be let on the plane and even let into the United States. So the cheapest I have found for that COVID test, because this is another thing we'll have to consider, how much do COVID tests cost, is actually at Sydney Airport. It's $79, I believe. Last time I checked, it was $79, and it's a 90-minute turnaround, and they give you all the documentation that you need to fly, to be fit to fly, you know, to be proven that you're negative. So what we are doing, we're flying, like I said, that day early. We're staying one night's accommodation at Ridge's Sydney Airport, mainly because it is literally across the road from the international terminal. So like we don't have to go very far the next day, and that is also where the testing site is located, at the international terminal. So we'll come in that day. To stay that one night at Sydney Airport was $113 each. Divide that by 3 people, remember? And then that night we'll go get a COVID test, which is $79. I think it's called Histopath. It's the only one that you can get at Sydney Airport. And yeah, like I said, 90-minute turnaround, but because we're doing it the night before, we're giving ourselves like way more time for it to, you know, the results to come back to us. And I believe the last time I checked, they were open till 11 p.m. or 11:30 p.m. So it doesn't matter, we're getting there about 2 in the afternoon. Something else to consider, and our flight doesn't leave till 10 a.m. the next day. So as long as we get it done after we land at some point, we should be sweet, we should be good, just have to stay negative. I am not going anywhere in the 2 weeks before my trip because I am not testing positive, not putting those vibes out there. I'm not testing positive before I travel. I can test positive on the way back, that's what travel insurance is for, but not before I go, you know, not before. So that was something else we had to consider. So speaking of COVID testing, we have budgeted $300 each. Like I said, it's $79 Sydney Airport. Coming back home, this is where it's hard. They've just changed it so rapid tests are now available, but you still have to go to someone to get it done. And I believe it's about $80 for a rapid test. If you want to still get a PCR test, you are looking at about $180. I don't know which way we're gonna go. The airport at Florida, like MCO, looks like the best bet, and I'm thinking we will do it the day before we fly. Otherwise, there is another place that I found, I think it was called Fast Now, but it was still over $100 to get a PCR test, but they accept international travelers. That's one big thing that I found researching where we can get tested. Not everyone accepts international people and give you the documentation that you need in order to fly, so really look for that. I'll let you know what I end up doing because I know a lot of Aussies are gonna find this information useful, or who knows, maybe by April we'll be like the UK and we won't care anymore about getting tested before we fly, before we come back home. And in case you're wondering, once we land in Australia, you don't need to go get a PCR test, even though they are free if we just go like line up at your local testing site. You just have to do a rapid test within 24 hours of landing. Now, COVID test out of the way. The next thing, which is actually a big thing, and I probably should have mentioned it sooner, but to get into the US, you actually need to complete an ESTA. So it's like your visa to get into the US. This has to be done. My recommendation to you, at least do it a month out. Mine have always had a really fast turnaround. The one that I did for this trip, they literally approved it in like 4 hours, but it can take like a week or two, so please do it a month out. Do not do it the day before. It will not be guaranteed to be done in time, and you need this to get into the United States. I will leave the link below to the website where you do it through. There are a lot of dodgy websites that they'll do it for you, but they essentially charge you more because they're doing it for you, if that makes sense. Like there's so dodgy. So I'm going to leave the proper link below. That is the website you use. It is the American government website. It's roughly like 14 or 15 US dollars. That is all you should be paying. So for us, it came out at 20 Australian dollars to do your ESTA. They last for 2 years, so once you do one, you don't need to get another one for 2 years. This might seem stupid saying, but they can obviously still not let you into the country when you arrive, depending, you know, but this is like the first step of approval to get in and have a visa. So you need to get your ESTA, everyone. Please remember to do your ESTA. Next, another fun thing we now have to consider, not that I plan on doing it this much, Genie Plus. We don't really want to use it, but if it comes towards the end of the trip and I feel like I haven't done as many rides as I would have liked to, then I'll consider doing it. Now, I've noticed there are some tickets you can buy, especially from the UK, that 14-day pass I was talking about. You can buy that automatically with Genie Plus included. Obviously the price will go up, but that means like all 14 days you will automatically have Genie Plus. So you can buy tickets with it already included. We didn't want to do that because we're not going to plan on using it every day. So far I have budgeted for 8 days worth of Genie Plus, which is generous because I don't think we're going to use that much. But also sort of thinking about the individual lightning lanes that we might want to get, like Rise of the Resistance, because I am riding that ride again, probably twice, maybe 3 times. I loved it so much, I really want to do that ride again. So we have budgeted at least 8 days, which is 160 Australian dollars. Not cheap, is it? No. So that's just another thing that you got to consider if you want to skip the queue. It costs money now. It's $15 US dollars a day, whatever the conversion rate. I put in 180 because obviously whatever I had the conversion rate that day, that is what it has come to in Australia. I only have a couple more things that I think you need to consider for your trip, budget wise. Next big one, spending money. Oh, spending money. In here, I have put a lot down, but I am someone who would rather oversave and just have it there just in case, instead of not having enough and then I have to put it on credit card. So for spending money, I have got 2,000 Australian dollars written down. Will I spend that much? Very highly unlikely. However, there's a lot of 50th anniversary merch that I want. There's just a lot of new merch that I want, and I know me, and I could spend that much. But I'm just like I said, I'm budgeting for crazy just in case. Better to be safe than sorry. I actually put all this money on my US travel card. So a lot of the US, some theme parks, some areas they're still not a cash society at the moment because of COVID. They're just being a bit safer. So I have a travel card that I use overseas. So obviously I don't actually go get US dollars. I get a few US dollars, which is considered as 2,000 for tipping and whatnot. For most of it, I'll just use my travel card. For me, I chose to get a travel card through my bank just because it's just easier when I want to transfer money. Like if I needed more money urgently, it can just transfer from my bank account like that. It is instant. I don't have to wait like a couple of days for it to finally reach there or something. So I just went through my bank and I used them last time. It was completely fine. And I'll just continue to use them. But you can get lots of travel cards from, I know Qantas does it if you're a Qantas frequent flyer. I think your card, you can use that as a travel card. There are so many options. I think you just go to the post office, they sell travel cards. So, but definitely look at getting one. I don't think you want to put everything on credit card and then dealing with the conversion rate every time. You're better to try and lock in some US dollars when it is at a good rate. Instead of when you get there and say it's at a terrible rate and then you're paying way more than what you would have liked to. So yeah, look at getting a travel card. And last but not least, like I said, there is probably stuff on here that I have forgotten, but that is transportation. So it is no longer free. Well, there is no free service. Disney got rid of Disney's Magical Express. Thanks, Disney. And yeah, you now have to find your own way to Disney World, which is great. We are going to try Mears Connect. We have heard very mixed reviews. Some people say it's amazing. Some people have said it is horrendous. Essentially though, they ran the Magical Express, so I don't know how they could be screwing it up so much. And it is in the same spot as where Magical Express was at MCO. So we just thought, let's just try it. If they're terrible, we know not to use them on the way back. And okay, we've just lost some money, but it's just a risk we're willing to take. So that's going to cost us $43.90 roughly Australian dollars return to Disney World and then back to the airport. It's 38 US dollars for that service. There is another service opening called the Sunshine Flyer. It hasn't started yet though, so that's why we were hesitant to book it, because there's been no reviews. I can't see what people are saying about it, if it's good, if it's bad. A lot of people just say just Uber it, but honey, when you're an Australian and you're coming to the US for the first time in like 2 years, you have so much luggage it would fill one Uber. So I don't want to risk being like, oh, just order an Uber, and then this Uber rocks up and it can't even fit the three of us and our 3 bags, probably more than 3 bags. So that is why I'm a bit not willing to go Uber or Lyft, because I just don't like. Sometimes I remember once I ordered a larger car and it still didn't even fit all our bags in. So yeah, I guess we could get a taxi, but at that point that's so expensive, you might as well just have gone Mears, right? That is everything that we have considered in our budget. Like I said, we have probably forgotten things, and I am sorry if I have, but that is just, now you know, as an Australian, that is everything I have considered for this upcoming trip. There's obviously more things I need to buy and whatnot, but they're the big things. They're the things that you really need to consider. Other things like new clothes, like that is not really a need, you know, it's just more of a want. So I'm not adding that sort of stuff into this budget. But yeah, there you go. I hope you have found this helpful. I'm sorry it has gone for so long. I've been talking for a very long time. Yeah, like I said, I just really hope that you have found this somewhat useful maybe for your upcoming trip, or just planning your trip, or trying to figure out budget wise how much everything would cost, it is not cheap. Like, definitely not. In total, with everything that I have written here, just remember, I don't have accommodation either. 8,272 Australian dollars, and I didn't have to pay for at least 10 nights accommodation. So that's just my points. It is not cheap. And there's like more, but like I said, I have over budgeted food. I've definitely over budgeted spending money, but yeah, there you go. Not a cheap holiday. I'm very blessed that I'm just paying for me right now. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to have a family and whatnot. Just hasn't happened to me. Just me flying solo, so I'm gonna live it up while I can and just pay for me to go, because like I said, I can. So I hope you found this video useful. If you are new, once again, hi, welcome, thanks for joining. Feel free to hit the subscribe button below. There's going to be more Disney content. There's going to finally be Disney vlogs. They'll probably start around May, or maybe end of April if I'm really energetic. When I get back, I do come back and go straight back to work, so we'll see how I feel. But there's definitely going to be more Disney content and more information sharing. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like this video if you did, and I will see you all next time in my very next video, whenever that may be. Bye. Bye everyone. I ended that really weirdly. That was weird.